But let's start with the food crisis. You know, probably most of the people in America, even people that I know, are poo-poo what I say, you know, that we may be having a food crisis. But let me tell you, when you have a lot of farmers who are standing out saying, everybody better pay attention, we're headed for problems. Now, let me just give you some reasons that you should consider that this is a serious possibility. Number one, China is hoarding food. I know Laura acts shocked, but you know, they already have enough food. They already have enough rice, corn, and wheat for their 1.5 billion people. In addition to that, there is a world food reserve that's to be shared among nations that have problems, you know, like Africa. And for some reason, China feels like they need to hoard 69% of the world's corn reserve, 60% of the world's rice reserve, and 51% of the world's wheat reserve. Now, that's just for this first growing season. The United States Department of Agriculture is the one that gave me these numbers. And they say this is what they're estimating by the end of our first growing season, which comes up here, you know, end of May, 1st of June. All right. Now, okay, why are they hoarding for food? Well, your guess is as good as mine. Is it to dominate the world prices? Is it to cause starvation? Is it to be in control? Probably yes to all of that, okay? We all know that the Chinese Communist Party has got world dominion in mind. Okay, now the second thing to that is, let's talk about fertilizer prices. Fertilizer is, United States of America is the largest importer of fertilizer in the world. Well, bad news. Guess who the largest exporter of fertilizer in the world is? Russia. Guess who number 2 exporter of fertilizer is? China. And before the Russia-Ukraine war started, they had already said, we're not going to be distributing any fertilizer before June. Well, then the war came, and then now they're all mad at America. So guess what? We're not getting any fertilizer from them. And in addition, on top of that, I read that a man that's in charge of one of the largest fertilizer groups in the Netherlands said, everybody better listen, because we make the ammonia that goes into synthetic fertilizers. And last year it cost $10 a ton. Now it's $1,000 a ton. Now you come out here and you talk to farmers, and they've got gas prices, diesel prices, just to actually, you know, go out and put the crops in. And I talked to some corn and wheat farmer and rice farmer this weekend, and I said to them, tell me about fertilizer. And they says, well, first of all, the fertilizer we have cost 300% more than it did last year. And I said, okay, if you don't have fertilizer for this next growing season, what is your yield going to be? And they all said, zero. We can't grow the food without fertilizer. So, okay, well, what are we going to do about it?
My goodness.
I know, isn't that scary?
That is scary.
But, you know, God makes a way. There's always a way out, always. And, you know, if there's any scripture that I know that I would stake my life on, it's Romans 8:28. All things work together for good for them that are called according to his purposes. Now, I'm going to tell you, in World War II, there was a food crisis. There's some interesting things about that. First of all, have you heard about how a lot of people are like gluten intolerant now? This is just an aside. This does not have to do with the food chain, but it's so interesting. I just want to tell you that what happened is there was a food shortage, so they were trying to create more wheat. Somebody discovered that you could put this certain grass with the wheat and it would grow really fast and really big. So guess what? It worked. And so because it was going to make people money, it stuck. That's why, and human beings cannot digest grass. So that's why so many people today in America have problems with wheat, because like wheat doesn't work with me. But when I go to like Italy, I'm like, how come I can eat the wheat here and it doesn't bother me? It's because they don't have that grass in their wheat. And that started 80 years ago. I just think that's kind of an interesting fact. But, oh, I'm sorry. I just lost my.
That is absolutely fascinating. I mean, that could be the answer to a lot of, you know, why we're seeing that. I have lots of friends who seem to have it. You never heard about it years ago.
Yes. I'm sorry. I just completely lost my thinking.
That's okay. Happens to me all the time. No worries. You know,
no.
Okay, you're on it. All right.
This is what happens when you get 60 plus. You know, you're talking about senior moment.
Okay.
Okay. So back in 1942, we had a food issue going on. We remember seeing movies where people rationed it all, where the government came up with an idea that people should start their own gardens. And so moms and dads and people all over America started putting in gardens in their yard, on their balconies, and the playgrounds, at the church. People everywhere just started putting in victory gardens. So Australia did it, Britain did it, well, even Germany. But in 1942, 135 million people lived in the United States, and there was 23 million victory gardens at that time. And they estimate that those 23 million victory gardens supplied 40% of the produce eaten. Okay. Now, this is how Romans 8:28 comes into me, because I'm going to tell you there's a lot of reasons to grow your own food. And if none of those that I've spoken motivate you, you can grow your own food without all the chemicals in it. And everybody's had a homegrown tomato. And you know how much better that homegrown tomato tastes than a grocery store? Well, I'm here to tell you cauliflower, broccoli, green beans, it all does the same. And I've been gardening for over 20 years. And when you see that little shoot sprout up, you get giddy. I'm still getting giddy. And the first harvest, here's what we did. We put in a garden because I was in Uganda working on a film. And I went into the refugee camp where there were South Sudanese refugees. And Laura, you can only see children starving for so long before you just have to do something about it. And because they're in this refugee camp, because of all the civil war going in South Sudan, they would love to work, but Ugandans are not going to hire them when they can hire their own countrymen. Okay. And so this is like almost hard to believe. If I had a coffee cup here, I'd hold it up. Each person was given something like the size of a coffee cup of rice and a coffee cup of beans. That's what they're given for an entire month. So let's say there's 6 people in the family. Woohoo, they get 6 cups of rice and 6 cups of beans, and that's got to last the whole month. I couldn't stand it. I came home just as COVID was hitting, and we didn't know COVID was hitting yet. And I called my friend who's been in agriculture all his life and a farmer and a degree in agriculture economics. I called him up and I said, can you help me teach people in third world countries how to grow food? Because they've got to be able to take care of themselves. They cannot depend on the United Nations. He said, absolutely. I committed my life to God when I was a young man to feed the world. And I'm in. I'm all in. He was so excited. So we came up with the plan. We were going to go back to Uganda and teach people how to grow food. COVID hit. We couldn't go. What happens? God connects us with an organization in Zimbabwe called Foundations for Farming. Now, Laura, this is very exciting. Let me tell you what Foundations for Farming is in a nutshell. Years ago, there was a man named Brian who was the continent of Africa's largest tobacco grower. He got saved, found Jesus, got convicted that he couldn't grow tobacco anymore. So he turned his attention to wheat, rice, corn, things like that. And he stands out one day and he says to the Lord, God, I need you to teach me how to grow food the way you intended. There's got to be a better way. Well, God answered him. God spoke to him and gave him a plan. So he thought, really? So he started with the small area because he was kicked off his farm too, because he's a white man and the white people had their farms taken. But instead of being bitter and angry, he decided to forgive and turn his attention to teaching the people that had his land how to grow food. This man is so godly, so amazing. And so he started doing it God's way and it flourished. Wow. So the next year he doubled what he was doing and on till that's all he was doing. So years later, now we have a nonprofit called Foundations for Farming. They were doing so well teaching people how to do this that the country of Zimbabwe came to them in 2021 and said, we need you to train 1 million farmers how to do what you're doing. Well, you know, Laura, you and I can reach 1 million people by getting on the internet, but this is third world country. You can't. They're like, what are we going to do? And they weren't given like 2 weeks or 3 days because of the growing season. They had one day that they could give training to people. So they did it the old fashioned way. We're going to teach 100. You go teach 100. You go teach 50. You go teach 200. And that's what they did. And are you ready for this? In 1 year, they had such phenomenal results that the country of Zimbabwe, the president of Zimbabwe came out and said, unbelievable. We have eradicated food insecurity in our country in one growing season. We have so much food, we even have enough to export because they were doing it God's way. So we're partnering up with them. My guy has a whole leadership course that goes with seeing God in nature in the garden and they have ways. So we're merging the two to create this program for people around the world.
Now, where can we follow you, Sondra, so that people can get more information? A lot of people are doing their, planning.
HeartstoneNetwork.com. And besides the Victory Garden program I talked about, this is a kind of, it looks like a Netflix, I guess it would say. We started this. God and I talked about this for about 10 years before I launched it. He was telling me to create a hub of sorts. And there is a lot of original content. I don't know. I know, probably from Canada, Patricia King, and,
Oh, sure.
Heidi Baker, Mario Morella, Lance Wallnau, all these
Yeah.
people are on the sites. I've gone and done stories on all of these people. And it's not only original content from us, but there is incredible teaching from people. There's testimonies from people. It's a site. I wanted it to be a site where you could come and you could learn all kinds of things. You could not only be inspired by the stories, but you could learn how to pray. You could learn how to do warfare. You could hear what other people are doing. Because I'm with Lance Wallnau in that he talks about the 7 mountains, and I believe that God has called us all to some kind of mountain, no matter what it is. And we all need to get out there and be the warrior that God called us to be, to take over the mountains and bring heaven to earth.
I
And
love that teaching.
I do want to make one little plug here.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Please.
Okay. You see this poster back here that says "Walk with Me"? For those of you who know, that's Heidi Baker. This is one of her missionaries, Carolyn Figlioli. And Carolyn is these are 2 of the bravest, most courageous, most God-filled women you will ever meet in your entire life. I'm telling you, Heidi has been living through so much terrorism in Mozambique now. It's just, oh my God, it's just heartbreaking. But anyway, Carolyn was running the children's home in South Sudan when the war broke out. And it was literally like they were here and the government soldiers were here and the rebels were here and they were fighting over the children and they wouldn't let the children out. And she had to stay on her face praying and begging, believing God for like 5 months to get out. And I'll just tease you with this one story. Because she was in the military, she saw what was coming. All the roads were cut off. Food could no longer come into Uganda. Talk about a food crisis. There was no more food. So she had enough food for 1 month, and then they didn't know what they were going to do. The pastor came through and said, refugees are coming through and they're starving. Can you share some food? She goes, yeah, we're going to give them 10% because God will honor that. Immediately, I mean, like immediately within a second, she heard God say, why don't you give away 90% of food and watch what I'm going to do with 10%? Now, I don't know about you, Laura, but we got to have a prayer meeting on that. I got to have God say that to about, 12 more people before I'll do that. She didn't. She knew it was God. She told the kids to load up the car in this truck. The kids all thought she was out of her mind. Bye-bye. There goes 90% of their food. And their pantries are kind of empty. What did God do? Their chickens started laying 2 and 3 eggs a day. That doesn't happen. Goats started having triplets. On and on and on. And then it was the dry season. So being from Uganda, you know what I mean by the dry season. The wells aren't working too good. So they had the wells, the yearly check. And when the guy came, he was actually mad because he said, you have so much water. This is ridiculous in the dry season. So they threw open the gate and they told everybody in the village, everybody come get all the water you want. Say, what? So what do you think happened? All these people came. She started a Bible study. People found Jesus and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, all the kids got out, but it's a 3-part docuseries that is amazing. It's doing very well, as I was telling you before. It has won numerous awards. I just say that to say, I want you to understand that we won first place in the largest independent secular film festival in the United States. We even won first place there. And this May, there is an International Christian Film Festival in Florida. And I'm just so grateful to tell you, we not only got selected as official selection, but we got noticed that we were nominated for most inspirational documentary. It is on Amazon Prime, but if you go there, Amazon will make you pay for it. So if you want to watch it, you can come to our site. It's free. And I know everybody says, what do you mean you don't have a subscription? Well, I don't know what to tell you, Laura. Jesus saved me and changed my life for free. I just can't charge people to come hear about Jesus. And I told Jesus, if you want me to do this, you order it, you pay for it. So it's all supported by viewer donations. If you come and you're touched and you want to give us $5, $10, whatever, hey, God bless you. We love it. We'll keep going. And you know what? If God doesn't provide, then I get to be a full-time grandma. I win either way, whatever, But,
I love it. You're totally dependent. What a faith walk. That's amazing. That's amazing. And you're amazing, Sondra. I've just so
my
enjoyed
age, it's not about accolades. It's not about being on the big screen. It's not about money.
Right.
It's just, I'm 62 and I got to make hay while the sun shines. And I don't know how much time I have left to reach people for Jesus through media. So I'm going as fast as I can.
You look good. You look
Thank you.
fantastic. And you're just fascinating. You're such
Well,
an
thank you.
interesting person. And I love it. And a good sense of humor. I really enjoyed speaking with you. I
Well,
think
thank you so
that
much for having me on.
you're warning us, and you're bringing a solution as well. And I appreciate that very much. And I think we have some very trying times ahead. And people like you
I
are
hope
going to
we're
be
wrong, Laura.
invaluable.
I
Yeah.
hope we're
I'm,
wrong.
yes, I hope so as well. And I'm going to check out how to grow my own garden. Even me.
Now listen,
All right.
just at least put in a cherry tomato plant in your backyard, okay?
Okay, I can do that.
That's a lot of
I can
salsa.
do that.
Tomatoes.
Okay. All right. Bless your heart. Thank
Thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
All
Take care.
right.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Sondra. Thank you.